my belief after consuming so many responses to this question is that it's actually a condition that we require. I think it's whether we've been conditioned to have that understanding, but I think it relates to a sense of calmness and some sort of relaxation and comfort, of security, I guess. And I think we actually probably impose that on anywhere we go. I think we're likely to try and seek out and create that sense of home wherever we go. And I find that, that's not a response I've had from any individual, but I think, when I listen to everything that's been said, I think, we do have that ability to do that. And I think it's a condition. I think it's an emotional state that we create a sort of, a nest in order to gather that sort of emotion. So, in general, I think that's the case. So, there is a difference, obviously, for somewhere like Winton in Western Queensland, where it's an ageing population, a population of 1,000 people. You have a lot of people who have second, third, fourth generation farmers from the one property. So there's a lot of conversation about a place, because there's a history in that place. There's not many people haven't had to contemplate what it means to change, to go to a different place. And quite often, home becomes much more relevant and it's something you think about when you're dislocated from it. So what I find in communities like Alice Springs, and it happened in Cairns as well, is that you have a lot of contemplation. You're interviewing a lot of people who have actually thought about this quite a bit because of their personal situation.
Because they're confronted with the question of where...
Well, that's right, and they're forced to be in a position where they have to renegotiate what that is and how they create their nest in a new place. And I guess also being afar from the home makes you appreciate it probably, or appreciate what it is that's important to you. So... But, what I like about this project is that, the responses range from the material through to the spiritual, and I think that's the key to it as well. It's not one thing that gives you a sense of home or that sort of security. It's a range of things. So, obviously, in a place like Alice Springs, we get a lot of response to how environment impacts on the notion of home. The colours, the sky, the temperatures, the dynamic changes in the environment. So, obviously in a landscape like this, it does become a major component. Other places where, it's maybe not as obvious, the landscape, although that is a common response, it's probably not quite as dominant, It's very hard for me to generalise about a location. It's something I try not to do, last thing I want is a sort of,
Sure.
an artist coming into a place and imposing ideals or, spreading false information.
Yeah.
But what I have picked up from the interviews that we've carried out so far is that I think Alice Springs is there's a sort of respect for the diversity here. So I think there's this, and obviously Indigenous culture has a major influence on that. But there's the people who come in here who work here, who are working very hard to look at the condition of that relationship So it's a very layered place with many different objectives for the people who live here, and I think that's understood. That's my perception, is that it's understood. So, in fact, I half expected that a lot of people who have only been here for a few years, who are working in maybe government jobs, would feel dislocated from the community, but that's not the case. Most people feel that they're actually overwhelmed by the dynamics of this place, and for that reason, and because there are such diverse cultures, and there's it's a real melting pot. I think for that reason they feel like quite homely. I think it's anyone's space in a way.
They feel like they can be a part of things. Do they say that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's overwhelmingly it's positive about the effect and the effect of living in a place like Alice Springs, or living in Alice Springs, and that's you can't always tell because we've only interviewed 35 people from this community, so obviously there would be lots of a whole other range of responses to that, but. From what I've seen and my experience here as well, I think it does have that sort of openness, and it's a place forming in a way, and it's probably constantly forming and changing, and it ebbs and flows, and as we know, the sort of media lately is picking up on a certain aspect of this place, and that probably ebbs and flows as well, I imagine. So, I think that in general terms, that's a very attractive place to be. It changes, it evolves, and you have very interesting people who are living in this place, and that's obviously strongly linked to the relationship with Indigenous culture in this area, in the desert, etc. But nevertheless, that's a lot of. It seems to me that there's some good brains hanging out in Alice Springs.